Hello, and welcome to our Internet Lab hot item. Today, it's my pleasure to welcome Benoit Felten, a telecoms consultant based in France. Benoit has been working for over 25 years on broadband business models, connectivity policy, and the wider impacts and benefits of digitization for consumers and enterprises. The reason? A study published today by Plum Consulting on exploring the negative impacts of legally mandated dispute resolution in IP interconnection. Benoit, tell us more.
Well, um, anyone who follows policy in Brussels will have noticed for a number of years now that the European Commission has been trying to introduce in various flavors payments for traffic flows between networks. Network fees, fair share, it's got all kinds of names, but it seems to be a bit of an EC obsession. And in the last consultation, it is in again, although in a slightly different form, which is the mandating of a dispute resolution mechanism for IP interconnect. Now, the bizarre thing about that is that IP interconnect as a market works perfectly well, as Beric has shown. There are millions of peering agreements, not to mention other modes of interconnection in Europe, and we could only trace a single dispute that has been resolved through arbitration, and that's not even in the EC because it was in Switzerland. So the existing tools that we have, the open internet rules, the competition law, the contractual law, all of these have resolved every single case, and there are very few of these where there were disagreements between parties. And as I said, only once in the last decade did a regulator have to be involved. And yet, the Commission is pushing for a dispute resolution mechanism to apply on IP interconnect. Now, the issue here is that the long game, certainly for the large incumbents who have been pushing for this for a while now, this was first floated in a 2022 Axon report, and it has been pushed repeatedly by a number of large European telcos since. We think that the game plan for them, and indeed it looks like a workable game plan for their goals, is to basically leverage the fact that dispute resolution mechanisms have precedent setting kind of inbuilt in their philosophy, which means that if a few dispute resolutions go their way, they hope that this will in effect institute a default mode where interconnection is always paid for, as opposed to the current industry norm, which is that in 99.97, or I don't remember the exact number of commas, percentage of interconnections, these are settlement free. So there's a very real risk that such a mechanism could lead to systematic network fees. Also, this is happening with, as a backdrop, a behavior by some large ISPs where they effectively leverage the consumers that are captive to their network because they are their broadband customers, to basically strong arm content providers, CDNs, transit providers, whoever, into paying them for that network to be carried. There is now an open case by consumer associations in Germany against Deutsche Telekom. Actually, I don't know if I can call it a case legally, but at least there is a complaint that has been made public. And we don't think that this is a one-off either. So we think there's a very real risk that this could have very harmful impacts, not just for the content providers in Europe, but for absolutely everyone in the ecosystem, apart from possibly the few telcos that would be leading the charge on these dispute resolutions. One of the things that is very different from the previous iterations that the Commission tried to put in place is that openly previously the Commission was trying to say, look, we are not targeting everyone. We're only targeting the largest of the large content producers. And incidentally, these all happen to be non-European, so you have nothing to worry about. This mechanism that they are now floating actually would impact absolutely every player in the industry, because the largest uh, the largest generators of traffic, if you look at this dispassionately at the interconnection level, are going to be transit providers and CDNs. And transit providers and CDNs are absolutely neutral in who they serve. They serve every European startup, every small ISP, every company, whether it's based in Europe or elsewhere, goes through these network tools to reach the consumers that are asking for their content. And so, in a sense, you could argue that at least the hypocrisy of saying, well, we're trying to target only the American and Chinese providers of content has disappeared. But the consequence, which was going to be the case anyway, because the way IP traffic works, you can't distinguish easily between one provider and the next. The consequence is going to be that the costs for absolutely everyone that relies on the internet to do their business is going to increase. So that's going to be every website, every streaming service, every music distribution service, every productivity provider, all kinds of both consumer and business oriented solutions. And I'm not even getting into AI, because we know that AI requires a lot of traffic, and that's inevitably going to be hugely affected as well. So everyone is targeted. The costs are going to go up for everyone, which means they're going to go up in a compounded way significantly for consumers and businesses, because all of the online services that they pay for or subscribe to are going to increase in price. And the only ones who might benefit from this financially are going to be the few large ISPs that are big enough to get into this strong arm negotiation. Because if you're a really tiny ISP, first of all, you rely primarily on transit to route your traffic. And if you ask for money to peer with providers that don't want to, they're just going to tell you no. And so you're going to have to go through transit anyway, and the price of transit is going to be going up. So you're going to get no benefit from that at all. And if we look at this a bit more holistically, what this means also is that the resilience of the internet as a whole, which is made possible by the quick and informal way in which IP interconnection works today, is also going to be questioned, because every player who has a decision to make as to where they interconnect and with whom is going to look at these dispute resolutions and decide on the basis of how much risk are they taking that this is going to affect them, as opposed to how do I get as close to possible to the end user? How do I make this the most efficient or the most resilient? So we think, having analyzed this in depth, that it only has negative consequences. It's not even one of those where you can say, look, there are some good sides to it, but careful, there are some bad sides. There are just no upsides to this. And besides the kind of blatant breach of, I would say, kind of policy norm, which is that you introduce corrections when there are known issues, which is clearly not the case here. Even Barrick, who cannot be suspected of being particularly pro anyone in the industry, is saying this market is ultra competitive and there are no reasons to regulate this. So that's why we wanted to release this report before the submission deadline on the current DNA conversation, because we fear that this trick of introducing this through dispute resolution means a lot of people who will be affected are not really aware that they will be. If you say network fees, a lot of small companies immediately grasp the impact that it has on them. But if you say dispute resolution, they may think, well, this is not going to concern me, so it's not going to have any impact. And we think it's very, very important that the kind of the industry as a whole realize that apart from a tiny number of very large players, everyone will be negatively impacted by this.
Thank you, Benoit. That's kind of depressing, to be quite honest. But I think what concerns me is that the whole, you said it, it's been morphing, the network fees element. But I think we are now switching from what you're telling, from a solution looking for a problem, which was how it was framed before, to a problem in itself. It's not even a solution looking for a problem. It is a problem that will create lots of problems for many actors in the internet ecosystem in Europe. So I'm hoping that a lot of people will look at your study, read your study, and that it will encourage them to participate in the DNA consultation. As you said, the deadline is 11 July to respond. We will put the links to the consultation in the description of this video, and I encourage everyone to share their concerns. Obviously, read your report first, but if they share the Plum analysis, share your concerns in the consultation and make sure that your voice is heard.
Absolutely. And if they want to reach out to, understand specific points better, they should be free to do that.
Okay, thank you so much, Benoit. Have a great day.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on.